Welcome to the 12 tribes of Ishmael. Many of us are familiar with the ancient story of Abraham and his desire to have a son. In the biblical account of his story, Abraham first had a son with his handmaiden Hagar. This firstborn son was named Ishmael. Abraham's second son Isaac was declared the son of promise. Welcome to the Bible Stories channel, your destination to explore the deep stories and profound messages of the Bible. Here we will delve into the sacred pages, unveiling timeless lessons and spiritual truths that have impacted generations. Prepare for a unique spiritual journey, brimming with wisdom and inspiration as we delve into the biblical narratives. Don't forget to activate the notification bell, give us a like, share, and comment so we can continue spreading the divine message to more people. The Jews today claim descent from Abraham through this second son, Isaac. Few people today know what happened to the descendants of Ishmael. It is often assumed that they simply became the Arabs of the Middle East, but to most of us, our knowledge stops there. The Bible gives us the following record. But as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Genesis 17:20. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bore unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedma. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their encampments. 12 princes according to their nations. Genesis 25:12, 16. In 1932, David J. Gibson set out to map the chronologies of the Bible, and in doing so, he was faced with the puzzle of what happened to the sons of Ishmael. In order to complete his chronology, he began a lifelong search for answers to this question. 10 years after his death, his son Dan Gibson took up the challenge and flew to the Middle East to continue the search. That search has now lasted over 30 years and has led him to many of the remote parts of Arabia. Dan has lived in the empty quarter of Arabia, climbed the mountains of Yemen, lived among the Huwaitat of southern Jordan, and crossed the burning deserts of Saudi. He has also spoken to many of the great archaeologists who work in the Middle East and has examined countless books and theses, pursuing answers to this question. Below is a brief summary of what Dan's father started and what Dan has continued. The Muslim understanding of how the Bedouin tribes originated is outlined in the chart below. Some Bible scholars identify the Muslim Khatan as the biblical Joktan. See the founding of the nation's chart. The biblical record of Ishmael gives us the names of the 12 sons, but no clue as to how they might be connected to the modern Bedouin tribes. This list is found in Genesis 25 and is later repeated in I Chronicles 1:29-33. And these are their generations: the firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, Mishma, and Duma, Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael. These sons eventually took wives, had children, and through these children tribes were formed. These tribes made up the nations that dwelt from Havilah to Shur and from Egypt to Assyria. These descendants of Ishmael were not the sole tribes in the Arabian desert. Other tribes emerged from other sources. Some of these became the people of South Arabia, and others also wandered and settled in Arabia. For a chronology, see the founding of the nation's chart. We will examine the 12 sons of Ishmael and try and determine what might have happened to them below. Nebajoth. More information is known about Ishmael's eldest son, Nebajoth, than any of the others. In the Bible, Kedar and the tribe of Nebaioth were renowned for sheep raising, Isaiah 67. Their names are frequently found together in Assyrian records. Nebajoth is specifically mentioned by the Jewish historian Josephus, who identified the Nabateans of his time with Ishmael's eldest son. He claimed that the Nabateans lived through the whole country extending from the Euphrates to the Red Sea, and referred to this area as Nabateen, or the area that the Nabateans roamed in. Josephus goes on to say that it was the Nabateans who conferred their names on the Arabian nations. Jewish Antiquities, 122:1. Josephus lived and wrote when the Nabateans were in existence, and supposedly he obtained his information directly from the Nabateans themselves. These Nabateans spoke and wrote an early form of Arabic, and thus they were often referred to as Arabs by Greek and Roman historians. Previous to Josephus's report, Assyrian records tell us of King Ashurbanipal, 663 BC, who was fighting with the Nabateans of Arabia. Then in 703 BC, a group of Chaldeans and neighboring tribes rebelled against Sennacherib, the Assyrian ruler. The ancient records of Tiglath-Pileser III list among the rebels the Hagaranu, possibly the descendants of Hagar, the mother of Ishmael, the Nabatu, very possibly the descendants of Nebaioth, the eldest son of Ishmael, and the Kedarites, descendants of Ishmael's second son. According to these records, the tribes fled from Assyria into the Arabian desert and could not be conquered. The Assyrian kingdom eventually divided into the rule of two brothers, one the king of Babylonia, and the other the king of Assyria. In 652 BC, conflict broke out between these two brothers, and in support of the Babylonian king, the Kedarites invaded western Assyria. As described in the records of Esarhaddon, the Kedarites were defeated and fled to Natnu, the leader of the Nabayot, for safety. Later, the Kedarites and the Nabayot attacked the western borders of Assyria, but were again defeated. After their defeat, Natnu's son Nuhuru was declared the leader of the Nabatu. 300 years later, the Zinon Papyri from 259 BC mentioned that the Nabatu were trading Gurian and Manian frankincense, transporting it to Gaza and Syria. They transported their goods through the Kedarite centers of northern Arabia, Jauf and Tema. Early Nabatean pottery has also been found in locations on the Persian Gulf, along the coasts of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Tuwair, Zubaydah, Taj, and Ain Jawan. There are also ancient references to the Nabatu living along the western edges of the Arabian Peninsula and in the Sinai. These Nabatu were pirates who sailed the Red Sea, plundering trading vessels. Later, they established bases in several seaports, including the port city of Ayla, modern-day Aqaba, which is only 120 kilometers from present-day Petra. While most of us think of the Nabateans as people who transported goods in the desert by camel caravan, it has become increasingly evident that the Nabateans were also a sea-trading people. It is quite clear from the historical records that in 586 BC, as the Edomites began a gradual migration north into Jewish lands that had been emptied by Nebuchadnezzar, the tribes of Arabia also began to move northward. From their port city of Ayla, Aqaba, it was only a short move inland for the Nabatu to occupy the quickly emptying land of the Edomites, eventually making it the heart of the Nabatean Empire. Although the chronology is not yet clear, it appears that some Edomites remained behind. Those that emigrated into Judea became known as Idumeans. These were some of the people that opposed the Jews during the rebuilding of the temple at Jerusalem under Ezra, and later the rebuilding of the city walls of Jerusalem under Nehemiah. In time, the Nabateans built an impressive civilization based on merchant trade. Their capital was originally the city of Petra, located deep in the sandstone mountains of southern Jordan. Later, the city of Bostra in southern Syria also functioned as a royal city. The Nabateans built several other cities in the Negev, in northern modern-day Saudi Arabia, and in other parts of modern-day Jordan. In 106 AD, the Nabateans surrendered their empire to the Romans, and eventually their Nabatean distinctiveness disappeared. Kedar. As we have already mentioned, the sons of Kedar became known as the Kedarites. The Kedarites were the main military power of the sons of Ishmael. Isaiah speaks of Kedar's glory and her gifted archers. Isaiah 21:16-17. Ezekiel 27. 21 associates Arabia with all of the princes of Kedar, suggesting a confederation under their leadership. The Kedarites were in constant conflict with the Assyrians. The Assyrians, Neo-Babylonians, Persians, and even the Romans realized the importance of taking control of the commercial routes in northern Arabia that were under the dominion of the Kedarites, and later the Nabateans. Nehemiah's opponent, Geshem the Arab, has been identified as one of the kings of Kedar from the mid-5th century BC, based on a number of North Arabian inscriptions. Regarding their religion, Assyrian inscriptions tell us that Sennacherib captured several Arabian deities in the Kedarite city of Dumah. The chief deity was Atarsaman, or the morning star of heaven, the counterpart of Mesopotamian Ishtar. The tribal league led by the Kedarites was known as the Confederation of Atarsaman, and their cult was led by a series of queen priestesses in Duma. The rest of their pantheon of gods consisted of Dai, Nuhai, Nuhe, Ruldai, Ruda, Abarilu, and Atarkaruma. Rock graffiti in the Talmudic language reveals that Ruda was known as the evening star, and Nuhai was the sun god, and they were worshipped in addition to Atarsaman, the morning star. Herodotus, in the 5th century BC, identified two deities worshipped among the Arabs: a fertility god called Orotalt, perhaps Ruda, as identified by MacDonald in North Arabia in the 1st millennium BC, 1360, and a sky goddess known as Alat, Herodotus III. Later, Alat would be referred to in the masculine form as Allah. The Kedarites are mentioned in several passages in the Bible, always as nomads. Psalm 120 is a cry of distress. The speaker has fled and lives in a place called Meshech in the tents of the Kedarites. In Isaiah 42:11, Kedar is mentioned in a song of praise. In Jeremiah 2:10, the children of Israel are advised to check with Kedar and see if it is an ordinary thing for a people to forsake their gods and turn to others. Jeremiah 49:28 presents us with a prophecy against Arabia, Hazor, and Kedar, foretelling that Nebuchadnezzar, a king of Babylon, will destroy them. Ezekiel 27:21 is a lament over the city of Tyre. This passage mentions that Arabia and the princes of Kedar traded lambs, rams, and goats with Tyre. In the middle of the 4th century BC, the Kedarites seem to fade from history as the Nabateans come to the forefront. Adbeel. The tribe of Adbeel is often identified with the people in the land of Arubu who became subjects to Tiglath-Pileser II, 744-727 BC. Their chieftain was called Edibi-Elu, and he operated as the Assyrian king's agent on the borders of Egypt. His tribe was said to have dwelt far away towards the west. From this reference, some historians have thought that the tribe of Adbeel lived in the Sinai, Mibsam, and Ampa-Mishma. Some historians have wondered if the descendants of Mishma founded the villages around Jebel Misma. It is thought that these two tribes may have intermarried with the Simeonites and disappeared from history as a separate entity. I Chronicles 4:24-27. Duma is mentioned in the biblical records as a city in Canaan, Joshua 15:52. It is also associated with Edom and Seir in Isaiah 21:11. Duma is generally identified by historians with the Adirian Adumatu people. Esarhaddon's records relate how his father Sennacherib stuck against Adumatu in an attempt to subdue the Arabs. Sennacherib captured their king, Hazael, who was called King of the Arabs. Hazael is also referred to in one inscription of Ashurbanipal as King of the Kedarites. From a geographical standpoint, Adumatu is often associated with the medieval Arabic Duma el-Jandal.